Hey everybody, welcome back to Haman's Advice Forum. I am the Haman, and just want to talk about what I think is the most important movie for young men that will help you understand how society sees you growing up as a young man, especially in this country, right, or in the United States of America. But I think it's applicable to any culture or country on the planet because there's a quote, and I forgot where the quote exactly came from, that every person, when they're born, is brainwashed by the culture society that they grow up in, and the whole point of adulthood is to break free from that or to realize what the truth is. And that quote was, I first read it from Robert Kiyosaki's first book. It's not Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's if you want to be happy and rich, don't go to school. But that's not, so I'm not quoting it word for word, but I'm just paraphrasing it. But I think that the way that society presents life to you as a young person is very different from what the reality is. And we all go through this social conditioning. I went through it. You probably went through it. And I don't think there are very few people who actually escape from it. And what happens is that, you know, in the most developmental years of your life, you're forced to believe a certain way of thinking by society, and then once you go out into the real world, basically what happens is that you become the person who forces the next generation of people to think the same way. Kind of like, let's say, you're the prisoner in this whole prison camp, and then after a certain amount of years, then you have the I guess privilege of becoming the prison guard rather than actually fixing the prison camp. That's just kind of how I see things. But so let me get back to my whole point. So there's a movie with Tom Cruise in the 80s called Born on the 4th of July. And I really think that this was probably one of the most, I don't know if you call it a red pill movies, but it really like made me see how society viewed me, it made me see how I was viewed in society as a young man, and really woke me up to wow, this is what my reality was growing up. Born on the 4th of July with Tom Cruise. And I think this is probably one of his best movies. Before I watched that movie, I thought Tom Cruise was just a mediocre action star. But when I saw his level of acting in the movie, dude, I now understand why people consider him to be an A-list actor, because the dude can act, especially in this movie. I've never seen his other movies, especially except for Mission Impossible. But when I saw this movie, I really respected him, and it's about the semi-biographical portrayal of a guy named Ron Kovic. So what's the movie about? I'm just going to give you a little summary. I think I've talked about this movie before. Basically, it's about a guy growing up, I think, in probably the late 60s. And he believes in America. America's the greatest country on earth. And this is around a time when the Vietnam War is just about to happen. You see him in high school, and he's got to join the army because he loves his country, right? And he's patriotic. He's captain of the wrestling team, I think, or he's like really up there in the wrestling team. And he believes in his country. And so he goes off and he has a high school sweetheart, and he goes off to join the war, the Vietnam War. And he fights in it because he believes in everything that the people in charge have told him about his country. And then once he goes and fights off in the war, he realizes that everything he believes in was a fucking lie, right? And you kind of see that represented throughout the movie, where there's the fact that, he sees probably, and it's been a while since I've seen it. I think there's a moment where he's shooting kids and stuff, or his friends are dying, and he doesn't know what any of it's for. And then he goes through I guess identity crisis, where everything he believed in as a young child or as a young teenager what was told to him by society was a fucking lie. And it strikes his conscience, and he goes like fucking crazy, and he doesn't know what to believe in anymore. You know, does he believe in God? What does he believe in? And then he becomes an anti-war activist, and it's a crazy powerful movie. Like it's insane. Like you can't. It's like, wow, I can't believe that this is how people have, you know, how society has always been just a giant lie against our youth. And this is kind of what I talked about before, about how young people are pretty much the sacrifice of society. And I just remember when I watched that movie, it's like, that's how I felt when I was told that, and I know it's not like going to war, right? But when I was told that I should, you know, sacrifice my entire life to go to college, like I'm such a stupid moron, you know, if I don't do that. And then once I did do that, I realized it was a giant lie, and that nobody, you know, people in college don't take anything seriously, and it's really expensive. You don't learn anything. But I had to like ask myself, like, I believed in this lie, and people made me believe in it. And it turns out that none of it, that what they told me was true. Kind of like going, you know, Ron Kovic in the Born on the 4th of July, where, you know, he was taught that America was the greatest country on earth. You know, America's about freedom. You know, we're gonna go to war with Vietnam because we gotta prevent communism, because communism is the greatest evil. Communism is against against what God's greatest country, right? And it's the same thing that I felt. But of course, I didn't go through anything that Ron Kovic did, not to that level. But at the same time, I felt the pain when becoming a young man and realizing that everything's just a giant fucking lie, and how to come to terms with it. And that's really something that I really struggle with in my 20s, just not knowing how to wake myself up from the lies of society, whether it's just, you know, it's not something as serious as sacrificing yourself to go to war. But I remember when I was especially my late teens and early 20s, how depressed I was, just seeing that how much I wasted my life for the goals of some, you know, for someone else's agenda, basically. And that's what you see in Born on the 4th of July. And I think this is even if you've never joined the army or the armed forces, and I've never joined the armed forces, but or just, you know, even if you've never gone through anything serious like that, I think it'll help you reflect upon how you were raised and beliefs that you had as a young person going into adulthood. And this is something that I thought about for a long time, and it took me a long time to come to terms with. Like, I remember when I became an adult, like, why is it that, you know, my friends don't want anything to do with me anymore? Why is it that society doesn't teach me any basic skills? Why is it that I had to waste my my youth doing things that don't matter to me, and not learn just very basic skills to survive? Like, why do I live in a tribe that doesn't care how to teach its tribe members how to survive, right? And it was just a great source of my anger back then. And I'm going to be in my mid-30s now. But it was just, for me, it was just very devastating knowing that that's how the society that I grew up viewed me, that I'm just, you know, an expendable sacrifice for someone else's agenda, and that my needs and my wants don't matter, and nothing that I you know, I'm just a resource to be used and then to be gotten rid of as soon as I'm useless to the people in charge. And that really hurt me as a person, knowing that that's how my community viewed me, that's how my teachers viewed me, that's how the adults in charge view me. You know, it was really, really hurtful. And I don't think, and I think what happens to a lot of adults is that they're just not in touch with who they are anymore, and they just kind of stop caring because the system kind of beats the passions and dreams of young people out of them at a young age for the agenda of somebody else. Now, so if you have not watched the movie Born on the 4th of July with Tom Cruise, give it a shot. Tell me what you think. You know, it's a very powerful movie. It's very graphic. I don't know how accurate it is to Ron Kovic's life, but when I saw that, I felt like, wow, this Tom Cruise guy's, you know, I've seen him in all his Mission Impossible movies, and I thought it was just a whatever B-list actor. His quality of acting was just a B-grade acting. But once I saw him in the Born on the 4th of July, I was like, wow, this guy has some real acting chops, and he's an A-list actor, and I want to see more movies like that from Tom Cruise. But unfortunately, maybe movies like that don't appeal to the masses and sell tickets. But I really loved watching it, and I think it's the most, quote, red pill movie for young men out there. Okay, so let me guys know what you think about that movie if you guys have watched it or after you've watched it, and leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.